Okay, so firstly, tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is Lynne McTaggart. I am the author of a number of books that are now international bestsellers: The Field, The Intention Experiment, and The Bond. And I'm also editor of a magazine called What Doctors Don't Tell You.
Okay, so can you firstly tell us a bit about what you're working on at the moment? What's your latest work?
Well, I've been working a lot on What Doctors Don't Tell You over the past year or so, because we turned it into a newsstand publication. And it's caused a lot of controversy. It's caused a lot of controversy because it is now on the newsstands, and a number of skeptical organizations have been attempting to ban it. What it is trying to provide is a lot of scientific evidence for non-drug based medicine. And it also looks critically at conventional medicine as to what is proved and what isn't. And we have a team of scientists and science writers who look at this material very critically. So that's been my big thing that I'm doing. And I'm also working on a new book that is really looking at the power of group intention. And that it's a follow-on from a lot of the work I've been doing about the power of the mind and its ability to affect the physical world, and specifically to affect healing.
Wow, so certainly sounds like you're keeping busy there. Now, you're joining us for the International Mental Health Conference on Friday. Just sort of give us a bit about what you're going to be talking about on Friday and what can delegates expect to hear from you.
Well, I think there's a real confusion in the general public's mind about how energy types of healing can work. And a lot of new systems of healing, like meta health, are achieving great success in areas that conventional medicine can't reach, essentially. And the reason that there's some confusion is that a lot of our big problem right now in looking at health is that we are looking at an old and outdated model of the human body. We're told that our body is essentially a machine, and that it's a machine that's a lot of chemical and electrical signaling. And when this machine gets broken, it stays broken, unless, interfered with chemical things like drugs. Well, we're now understanding that there's a very new model of our bodies that describe us as much more as a dynamic, energetic system that is working with energy. It's working on quantum levels. It is mutable, and it's affected by the outside. It's not discrete and self-contained. All sorts of things affect our physical being, everything from the thoughts we think to the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the friends we have. The sum total of how we live our lives, that in turn affects our DNA, our genes. It turns on and off genes all the time. So we're now understanding that, um, where we end and where another begins and where the rest of the world begins is really blurred. And so we have to take that into consideration when we're looking at healing modalities.
Now, in terms of this work that you're talking about and the talk you're going to be giving, how do you see your research and the state of sort of healthcare and where we're at in terms of how we view healthcare? How does this tie into meta health, and where do you see it going in the future, meta health and traditional medicine?
Well, I think, of course, there's always a place for traditional medicine. If I get run over by a truck tomorrow, I want the best of high-tech modern medicine to put me back together again. For emergency medicine, conventional medicine was without parallel. But if you look at all of the statistics with all the major chronic diseases, conventional medicine can't cure them. It can only suppress symptoms. It's not doing too well. And that's where a lot of new modalities like MetaHealth are achieving great success. So I think where we're at right now with medicine is a crossroads, where we're recognizing that drug-based medicine, while good for emergencies, is actually quite dangerous in a lot of cases. and is now become the third leading cause of death in the West. And so we have to look to new modalities that are using a different kind of system. And we're looking at some of these and using and making use of these cutting edge ideas about the human body, about its biology and also its relation to the rest of the world. New discoveries in both biology and physics are demonstrating this. So, and I think we're at a crossroads. We see that with things like the Aisha King story, where we recognize that the old ways where the doctor is dictatorial and insists on one way of healing is outmoded and is being resisted now. We have to move to a case where we are integrating all forms of healing with conventional medicine, and there is the open-mindedness and the willingness to accept different paradigms because the old paradigm is falling apart.
Now, I just wanted to ask you a brief question about the intention experiment. I don't know if all of the delegates will have read that book and seen your work. Could you kind of explain a bit more about this experiment?
Sure. I was very curious after I finished the field because there was a lot of evidence from the scientists that I'd interviewed and the material I'd studied demonstrating that a thought is not only a thing, but a thing that affects other things. But being the sort of hard-nosed journalist I am at heart, I wanted to know, well, okay, what can we do with this? You know, if thoughts are so powerful, can we, you know, what happens if lots of people are thinking the same thought? Does that magnify the effect? And also, can we use it to heal things? You know, how far can we take it? Can I fly up on the top of my roof with my thoughts? I don't know. So I was looking around for a lot of group evidence about the power of group intention, and I couldn't find a great deal. So my husband turned to me one night and said, why don't you do the experiments yourself? And that sounded ridiculous until I started, because I'm not a scientist, until I started thinking about, well, okay, my books are in 30 languages, so I have lots of readers around the world, and I know a lot of scientists from my work. So if I put them together on a web-based platform, I'll have potentially the biggest group experiment in the world. So that's what I've done. Since 2007, every so often I invite my readers to come on my website or on a web broadcast, and then I work with a scientist to set up a very highly controlled experiment in their laboratory or out in the field, and I ask my readers to send the same intention at the same moment. So we've run since 2007 26 experiments. We've tried to make seeds grow faster. We've tried to purify water. We've even tried to lower violence. And of those 26 experiments, 23 have demonstrated positive measurable effects, and in many cases, significant positive effects. To give you an idea, I mean, even in experiments to lower violence, which are our most controversial experiments, we demonstrated a 74% drop in long-term violence in war-torn areas. Now, I had a team of scientists looking at this data, and we looked at 2 years of the violence statistics in these areas, and then looked at several months afterward. And there was definitely a very provocative change. Now, with that sort of study, there are many variables, so it could be complete coincidence. So the only thing to do is to do it again. So we did it in Afghanistan. We've even done it in areas of high crime around Washington, D.C., and each time we've had a very similar response. So they're very provocative. We've published one study of a series of 6 studies attempting to make seeds grow faster, and we had 3 sets of controls, and in every instance, the seeds sent intention grew significantly higher than the controls. So there have been some very interesting studies done with the University of Arizona, California, University of California, Freiburg, St. Petersburg State University, Penn State, a lot of prestigious universities. And we continue to get the same results. So It's an ongoing experiment. Each time we do another one, we learn. But it does indicate some very interesting things about the power of thought. And from there, the power of thought when it comes to healing and how important your own thoughts are in your healing journey.
Well, I certainly hope we can see more of those experiments in the future, and maybe some of the meta health community can also join in these experiments in future.
That'd be wonderful, and I can even join them in a little experiment during my talk.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd very much look forward to being part of that. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you
Thanks
at the
so much.
Meta Health Conference.
Thank you.